Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for all your patience as we navigate these technical difficulties. As we get started, please feel free to grab a snack on the back table or something to drink. We will go ahead and jump in and get started because we've got a really great lineup of speakers today. Thank you for your patience. Trying to figure out how to navigate these slides. I guess we just click on it. We'll be hearing first from Lorenzo with off-campus living and neighborhood relations. We've got Maureen to share some data from student conduct. We've got Austin and Mary Grace with the student care and outreach team. And then Molly's going to share a little bit from civil rights and Title IX. And then Amy will close us out with substance abuse prevention education. And this is also preliminary data from this past school year. We spent a whole year with the coalition looking at a lot of the problems that people are facing. So this is really just an opportunity to look at successes and really share about the great work that people are doing on our campus to address all the issues that we face. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Lorenzo.
Thank you. Hey y'all, so my name is Lorenzo Thomas. I serve as Assistant Director for Community Engagement for our Leadership and Service Center here on campus. And I have the pleasure of overseeing our off-campus and neighborhood relations for all of our students here on campus. So the University of South Carolina pretty much is very much so committed to the support and connection between our students, the university, and local community to ensure that we are truly building upon that town and gown relationships, and that we are fostering collaborations amongst all parties, which is so important for us. The Off-Campus Neighborhood Relations Office serves as a resource to students that are actively searching for housing. So they can come to us at any point and say, hey, I am John Doe, I am transferring here to the university and I need housing. Can you help me walk through this process? What we do is we truly walk the students through the process from point A all the way to point Z in terms of this is where you start from, this is what you can do. If you are having trouble securing housing, come back to us actually, and let us then step in and figure out what we can do for you to ensure that you are housed somewhere prior to the semester starting over. So some data points in terms of our outreach to students for this year was we had some community living workshops. We had 7 of them. If you see in terms of our outreach, in terms of fall 24, we had 56 students attend that community living workshop. This year, we only had 23 students. These numbers are really good. The community living workshops are really set for our students who may run into issues in our neighborhoods to where they are pulled in then to have a conversation with us on how to be a good neighbor, right? How do you truly foster those relationships with individuals you live with? And me and one of our officers here on campus, we pretty much lead that entire workshop session. The number has decreased. That's what we want though overall, that number to go down, because it is showing us then that our students are being good stewards in the community and they're being good neighbors overall, which we would like. RA presentations. We did 4 presentations this year, but our outreach was really large this year with 150 plus. The biggest thing we did was instead of RAs coming to us and saying, hey, can I request you? Can I request you? Can I request you? We finally said, hey, let's call a town hall meeting and let's pull all these halls together and let's sit down and figure out what are students missing? What do we need to plug in terms of information in regards to off-campus neighborhood relations, and what aspects can we assist with in terms of that transition from living on campus to living off campus overall. And then one-on-one meetings. We do not turn any students away. If you have been to the Leadership and Service Center, we have a very open office space environment. So if you walk in, you can find myself or my colleagues somewhere, and we do our best to point people in the right directions. We had 190 plus students that stopped by this year in terms of some type of advisement for off campus, whether that may have been an issue in terms of I'm having issues with this property manager, or what do I need to do? Or, hey, I need help securing housing, or I'm having roommate issues. Can you walk me through this process of how to get out of this lease or how to live with this person just in general? We did our best to be there for our students. A trend that really stood out to me was in terms of our graduate students. The number actually has increased a lot for our graduate students who are in need of housing. And we have done our best to support them in terms of giving them information with our housing message board portal we have, to where students can pretty much log in, and we have a tab set for graduate student housing to where they can actively find a roommate who is looking to pull in another graduate student. And our undergraduate numbers remain consistent around 96. But that graduate number will keep going up, I feel, over time, as we have a lot of students that transfer in mid-semester, or they come in during the summer and say, hey, I am a PhD student. I actually have a wife and a child. Can you help me walk through the process of securing a home in the community? Or what are some good neighborhoods that you would pretty much outline overall for us? So in terms of our communication impact, usually when people call the Leadership and Service Center, it is in regards to the work that I do in terms of questions they have in terms of, hey, I need support, I need support, I need support. Can you all help me? In terms of a touch point, we had 529 calls, emails, or in-person visits from students and family members. When families do come for a family weekend or even orientation, they may stop by and say, hey, we're already thinking next year. We want our students to live off campus. Can you help us start looking for some places? We don't turn anybody away. We bring everybody in and we sit everyone down at the table and say, hey, let me know what you're thinking of, and let's give you some options that best fit what you are looking for overall. We had 63 from neighborhood members in terms of probably some communication in terms of, hey, students that are living in our neighborhoods, can you have a conversation with them in terms of their behavior? Or is there possibly a way that we can have individuals come together for our neighborhood meeting? They want students at the neighborhood meetings. We do our best to really ensure that we are pushing students to attend those so you can get to know your neighbors that you're living with, but also too that you can give your input as a USC students. As I mentioned too, in terms of those neighborhood association meetings, I myself attend those meetings to hear from all of the neighborhood leaders in terms of concerns, issues, remarks they may have for students living in the neighborhood, but also too for the university. I gather all that data and I come back and I meet with my director, Dr. Edward Hyatt, to go over that information to figure out what can we do to best support the work that needs to be done for those neighborhood leaders while working with our students overall as well. We had some communication with landlords in terms of some property spacing, and then overall right now we manage a case of about 52 property managers that we work with here in Columbia to keep open communication with them in terms of if something comes up, please let us know. If something happens in your space that we need to be aware about, please communicate with us so that we can talk to our students in a timely manner as well too. In terms of incident reports, noise, parties, and large gatherings. I have the mindset of once it gets warm outside, people usually are back outside wanting to socialize and have a good time overall. This year we had about 23 incidents that were reported through our reporting form. Once those reports come in, they come directly to myself and other individuals in this space as well too. And we do review those when they do come in on an active rolling basis. There were some trash related issues as well too in terms of students just placing the trash can in the wrong way or not pulling the trash to the curb as they need to. Crime and safety concerns as well, but we worked with our city police in regards to those issues to make sure that they are addressed in a timely manner, that we're doing what we can to support. In total for caseloads for FY 24 and 25, we had only 39 this year. The year prior, we had 64. So something is working very well. Our students are getting it this year. They are understanding the importance of being a good neighbor and the work that we are doing in terms of just everything overall. Some of those top neighborhoods that have had some minor issues come up is University Hill, Olympia, and Hollywood Rose Hill. Those are our 3 active neighborhoods that we work very closely with in terms of those behavioral issues when they come in and they are reported to us overall. In terms of the incident reporting process and how it works, when I attend these neighborhood meetings, sometimes we will have some community members say, hey, this is going on. We need you all to do something about it. What we try our best to do is say, use the reporting form, because then what that allows us to do is to have data to go based off of. And once that report is submitted, as I mentioned, it is then sent to individuals in this room that can also to advocate. So the report is submitted online and they get an email confirmation, and so do I, saying, hey, they have received your email or your report that was submitted. Once it is submitted, it is reviewed by myself. It can be anything from a trash complaint to a party that happened at 3 a.m. We review everything to make sure that we are advocating for our people overall. Usually we follow up. This says within 7 business days. That has actually changed. Once a report is submitted within 24 hours, I do follow up and say, hey, thank you so much for submitting the report. We have received it. We are looking into this issue for you, and we will follow up in a timely manner, just so that they feel some sense of clarity as to they have received it, they are listening to me, and they do care about what is happening in my neighborhood overall. Once that occurs, the incident report then is sent to student conduct based off what the issue may be, and then the students are assigned to a community living workshops where we will meet then and go over the importance of being a good neighbor and what needs to happen in terms of you living in that neighborhood space overall. In terms of our incident reports through the years, you will see that our numbers have varied in terms of the year. 2020 to 2021 was a very popular. Yeah, we're very busy. But those numbers have dropped a lot. This year we have only had 39 cases, which is the lowest it has been. Which is the lowest it has been in a while. But I think that also too shows the dedication, not just for myself, but for my colleagues I work with in the Leadership and Service Center and our staff of ensuring that we are doing our best to educate the students on how to be a good neighbor. You do live in a neighborhood with someone. This is a shared community and space. So how do we all come together to ensure that we can live in this space together, right? And manage it. And I think we've done a great job overall for that this year. So that's all I have. Thank you.
That's like the best news you're gonna hear all day. And so good at it. I included it on my slide as well. So mine doesn't have as much numbers. This is the busiest week of the year for academic integrity. So I didn't have time to pull the numbers, so I'm just going to talk off the cuff. So I think a lot to be proud of, a lot of great work for the coalition. I want to start with probably the number one change being the number of referrals from our bar and entertainment districts being. I don't want to like spend too much energy on it because I would love it to stay that way. But for those of you who have been around for a while, if it wasn't for the work of this coalition, we would still have those 120 off-campus incident reports. We would still have where alcohol transports were in the 150s. We would have 10 or 15 a night. And that's really shifted the culture. And I think, Amy, as our leader, has given us a lot of research about the pandemic shift in drinking and substance use in general, and we're really seeing that decrease. The conduct office is still seeing students, and the Sape office as well. I'm sure they'll share this in the Sape report. There's fewer students, but the students we are seeing are engaging in riskier behavior.
Yeah.
So that probably doesn't come as a surprise to the folks in this room, but while the case numbers are down, we're not seeing as many students where it's like, hey, me and 8 of my friends are having a beer in my room. That behavior has kind of gone away. But the students who are finding themselves reported to our office are really the ones engaged in the highest risk substance use. I'll just look at that. So alcohol transports, we started the year really high. So there's 38 right now for alcohol and drug. 4 of those are for cannabis or shrooms. So I think that's important to note. Shrooms are definitely getting a little trendier. We've had a couple each week, including one today. So that's definitely a smaller trend, but I think something to be mindful of. Most of these alcohol transports were in the fall semester, which I think is to be expected, especially as our first year students are thinking about what role do I want alcohol to play in my college career. We know the first 6 weeks are the riskiest when students are still kind of testing those limits. They may not have those friend groups and those social networks as set up to be able to be like, hey, Amy, I'm going to bring you home versus bye girl, going to go hang out with my other friends and just kind of leave Amy behind. So I think especially in the spring semester, our students have really seen a positive change in their behavior. I'll also say there was pretty terrible weather until about the middle of March. So that also helps the cause as well in regards to Lorenzo's point of off-campus parties. Usually the weather is a lot nicer. We also got really lucky in that the spring game was on Good Friday of Easter weekend, raise up. St. Pat's and 5 Points was the Saturday of spring break. So I do want to acknowledge there were some statistical anomalies in the calendar that really blessed us this year, but I will take them as much as we can get. On the negative side, for some upticks, game day continues to be probably our students' highest risk activity. So we saw a continued uptick in our game day ejections. Some games close to 100 students ejected from the game. We also know that in addition to just getting ejected from the game, students engaging in high-risk behaviors those days, particularly riding the golf carts that are not regulated in regards to some of the assaults that we saw, folks falling off, concussions, injured medical transports as a result of those experiences. And then just heat exhaustion, medical transports in general. We know that those 7 Saturdays continue to provide a high-risk experience for our students. Our schedule this year is a little bit unique. So that will provide some good opportunities as well. We have some later games in November. Last year we were very front-loaded. So that'll be a good opportunity. Again, we have an away game for the Labor Day weekend. So please up. So game day continuing to be unique. I think we've done a lot of work in the fraternity and sorority space to be able to work with the fraternity lots to manage that process. We didn't get as many referrals directly from them this year, which I'm viewing as a positive, just like Lorenzo's members. So we've done a lot of work to educate that community in particular, but just the general vicinity of students getting down there continues to present challenges. Damage to property is grossly up. I don't have an exact number for you, but if I had to guess, it would be like at least 15 or 20%. Particularly elevators, which present challenges in regards to keeping our buildings ADA compliant. We've had our elevators broken at least a dozen times this year, and the elevators are very expensive, and there's only a couple of Otis workers in the state that can come fix them. So that's been a big challenge, working with our friends in campus housing to be able to identify those. Luckily, most of the buildings now have cameras, so we're able to get camera footage, which has been really helpful in holding those individual students accountable, where in years past, everyone on the floor may have received fees at the end of the semester. Also seeing attacks against water fountains, that continues to be a big one. Justice for water fountains. I love water. You know me, I love a cold beverage, and I just don't know why others don't want their cold water. So we continue to see damage in the residence halls, particularly in our newest spaces down Campus Village and 650 Lincoln, and then in our oldest facilities. So the newest of the new and the oldest of the old tend to be where those behaviors occur most often. Another trend that we've seen this year is, I'm going to call it gross uptick in student organization reporting and misconduct. So shout out to our friends in leadership at Service Center and FSL. We've talked almost every day. But I think in some ways it's a great thing. I think our students' tolerance for hazing is much lower than it's been in the past, which is awesome. Like, what a blessing. Where in the past, people may not have necessarily felt comfortable to even report the hazing. And if they did report it, they definitely weren't telling us a ton of details. They were just saying, hey, I got hazed this weekend. Look in the XYZ club. That doesn't give you a lot to work with. I think we're pretty good at investigating, but we're not that good. But this year, people are like, Amy Morgan hazed me at 123 apartment on Tuesday night. And that is awesome, because that's change we can actually implement. So for the first time in a while, we've been able to hold a lot of individual students accountable. You know, when you can suspend an individual student for causing high risk harm to another person, that really changes the culture in the community quickly, when people are like, oh, wow, they actually don't tolerate that here. So we never like to see a student separated, but for exhibiting extreme harm to other students, we do. We say, bye, come back later. So we have been working a lot with our student organizations. Hopefully y'all will be at the hazing prevention summit May 15th and 16th. Registration closes tonight, but I'm sure if you don't get in tonight, that Carly will help you out. But looking forward to spending a lot of time on that this summer. The federal government passed an anti-hazing the first national law ever that just went into effect, and there's some requirements. First, the education. So the university's contracted with Plaid to do some more work there. And we'll be doing some more outreach. We already have the Tucker Hips Transparency Act that requires us to post on our website, which we just updated yesterday. And we'll do one more update before the end of the school year. But really wanting our student organizations to be a hub for students to be successful and find that community and that home away from home. But maybe not feel as comfortable as someone would feel in that space to be able to inflict that harm on others. So looking forward to a summer of thinking through what do outcomes look like for organizations that may not be suspended, but still rise beyond the outcomes that we have right now. So we'll be working on a little task force this summer on organization outcomes. So if anyone's interested in that, shoot me a message. We would love to add you to our team. Lastly, academic integrity referrals are up about 30%. Should come surprise to no one. Artificial intelligence is here. It's so wonderful. We are not against it. We are against its improper use. So that's an important distinction. So spending a lot of time with faculty, making sure that their assignments have clear instructions, that the expectations and scaffolding for assignments have good pedagogy of if you're using artificial intelligence, how do you use it in a way that allows students to critique it, analyze it, build off of it the way that they likely will in their work. I'm sure everyone in this room has probably used artificial intelligence to craft something for you this semester. If you haven't, you're working too hard. So being able to spend a lot of time with that, with it being finals week, a lot of reports in that space. But that's okay. It means we're holding people accountable. But what's down? Drug referrals. So exciting. I think there's a lot of reasons why this is. One of them is it is becoming so much harder for our law enforcement partners to prosecute marijuana or cannabis related activities. So unless the student has more than 28 grams possession with intent to distribute or has a weapon or has another type of drug involved, the likelihood that we're getting those reports is pretty low. So the kind of old school, just some smoking weed in my room reports have really diminished. I also think more of our students are into edibles, which don't smell. So it's harder to get caught if you're just having a little gummy and minding your business. So it's not as necessarily impacting as many people. So not an expert there. So I'll leave that to Amy, but I have my own theories as to why some of those things have happened. And that would be my top two. And then our off-campus large parties, as Jordan's already stated, are down, which is such an accomplishment because having to be able to manage them, specifically some of our elders in the community, can really take a lot of energy and resourcing. So I think being able for our students to know, like, hey, having 80 to 100 people in your backyard is not setting up for success. And I think they're finally getting that. So some great work with our friends, again, to be able to set up some registration processes. I think getting some of the local establishments to be able to enforce some things a little bit more has made it a little bit easier to say, like, hey, don't you want this third party to take on the liability instead of as a student? And then a shameless plug, we are hiring for an assistant director of organization conduct because of the uptick, and a graduate assistant. So if you know anyone who's in graduate school and looking for a 20-hour assistantship or someone who wants to work with organizations, we would love to add them to our team. Thank you.
Mary Grace, can you hit X on the little thing in the corner?
Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. We are so excited to see all of our friendly faces. A lot of us are in email all the time, so it's good to see everybody face to face. We're back to numbers, so unfortunately we have a lot of numbers for you guys to look at. So this year, but yeah,
There's a way.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
I know.
If you hit the little minus thing on the left.
all right. So we've had an 81% increase over the last 5 years. Particularly in the 2023, 2024, we saw our biggest jump, and we got even higher this year. And I have on the next slide what our total number of cases for the year has been so far. And we also have in that number, it encompasses our basic needs cases as well. So we've added a whole new concern type to those cases. Self-injurious, thankfully, is down at least by I think 20 compared to last year. Which didn't feel like that in the moment when we were opening cases, but we're glad to see that number's gone down. Emotional distress is a lot higher. It continues to get higher. And then academic concerns, I feel like are pretty consistent. And then suspected substance misuse, have a lot of overlap with conduct. So a lot of those students go to conduct instead of us, depending on if they actually were seen with substances. And then as far as our month-to-month breakdown, the weirdest thing that happened this year was whatever happened in February. We're not sure what happened, but for the shortest month of the year, we saw almost October level cases, which is not.
It was dark and cold.
It was dark and cold, and the students were feeling that. And so that was our one anomaly, but other than that, we've stayed relatively consistent with our usual numbers and the usual uptick that we've had in cases. And our total case count for the year so far is 1,071 so far. And out of those cases, we have Austin, me, and Lisa, Tori, and then we just hired another coordinator to do our basic needs work. I think Lisa, she's out in the community shop now. No, I really call them. But again, self-injurious is down. Concerning behavior encompasses everything that's not self-injurious. So in that we have unusual behavior, which is stuff that it's just generally weird that doesn't really fit into a category. And then we have our basic needs cases. So obviously the bulk of those cases comes from just concerning where they're not necessarily to the level of self-injurious, but we still want to check them on and see how they're doing. Our top reporters was the craziest distribution this year. Housing used to be our top reporter, and now staff has bumped them out of their first place spot and has increased by 71%. So for our caseload increase, that could be related to a number of things. It could be students are engaging in more risky behaviors, or it could be that we're more visible on campus now. And so people are knowing where to send students if they're experiencing any kind of distress. And also our faculty numbers have gone up by 44% as well. So we like that for where we are, and when students are experiencing any kind of distress that can be sent to us. Classification wise, this is our normal distribution that we see. Last year, we saw seniors were not getting as stressed out at the end of the year. This year, they are again stressed out at the end of the year. So that has gone back to normal. But last year was a little them being the second to last. Any questions?
How do you define self-injurious? Is that just self-harming behaviors, or is that including like eating disorders or anything like suicidal?
Suicidal ideation,
Okay.
suicide attempt, self-injurious behaviors like cutting, self-harm, and then eating disorders.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
An important note is that we have moved over, we have left the beautiful Burns building, and we are,
Yeah.
we're in the Russell House now in Suite 115, so I think that visibility will continue to rise. We're right across from student advocacy, so that handoff is very simple now, and if that would have been in the past something that was handled by student advocacy and then usually a referral submitted, it's now just a direct handoff to us. So that has been simultaneously beneficial and also has increased the visibility of our office on campus. So there are a number of factors like Mary Grace mentioned, but wanted to share that just in case you weren't aware that we are situated right in the Russell House across from student advocacy.
Did you move in January?
We did. We did.
There's your explanation.
February was also the election.
Right after the election.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we've had several controversial speakers on campus. We have had some referrals coming from that, from students feeling impacted, of course, after those events, or they were attending the events, or they were just kind of in the vicinity. and ended up getting wrapped up into what was going on. So that definitely contributed to a number of our referrals. And when unfortunately a student passes away, the accident that occurred over by Strom was very visible, and there were a number of students there, and that resulted in a high number of referrals to us to check in with students.
It's okay if you don't know off the top of your head. Is there a particular department that has reported the those?
Yes.
Nora.
Melly Boland and Henspeak are
Oh, yeah.
top referrers.
Yeah.
We have a lot of overlap with our cases. Other than house.
Ready to move on? Okay, so I'm gonna talk about the impact community shop, even though this is kind of you wanted to hear about 13 cases, but the work that we're doing and the reason I want to bring this to this meeting is that we've seen a lot of overlap in emotional distress or mental health and well-being concerns tied into students lacking the basic needs resources that they need. So we've had significant growth in the Unity Shop over the past 3 years, 225% increase in clientele, which is incredible. And that's a testament to all the people in this room, Ambra, for bringing all of these services together and creating this centralized service that we have on campus. So wanted to highlight some of the great things that our student leaders and Jennifer have been able to do. So we're going to end up with about probably over 12,000 clients this year, and we anticipate that numbers are going to continue to rise. It's new still, and people are finding out about it. Our volunteers process over 60,000 donations. We get Panera Bread and Starbucks on a daily basis, which is amazing. Dr. Scott Taylor from HRSM is doing a food upcycling class where he takes food from dining halls, makes it into individual meals with his students, and then bring them down to the Unity Shop to give them out. If you've heard of Food for Balls, or if you want to look up Food for Balls, that program is incredible. Blake Weiss, who used to work here, if you're familiar with him, oversees the basic needs services up there, and they're doing an incredible job with that. And Dr. Taylor has a grant to create that program here. And so we plan to see that continue to grow. And then, as Margaret mentioned, Jennifer Jackson is here, and we are so grateful. She has a ton of nonprofit experience and really brings that history of and knowledge that she has to look at the higher level, kind of what is the future of the shop and how are we going to anticipate the growth and make things happen. So we're so excited. We also got a van and our Sape partnership. So we can do this on a weekly basis now and put 2 of these pallets and get like 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of food on a weekly basis. And you would think that would sustain us throughout the week, but we still have a lot of gaps in what we need in the shop. So it's a fun challenge to continue to grow and figure out how we're going to best serve the community. And then I just wanted to include this quickly so you can see our kind of visit breakdown. You can see those busy times of the year in August when students return, at the end of the semester, and then a little less in the spring, but we still see that the peaks at the beginning of the semester and then pretty consistent throughout the spring. So the fall is definitely our busiest time. And I think that's attributed to students being away from school all summer and then getting back and potentially being in a resource deficit. And so our numbers skyrocket in August. So we're currently prepping, trying to build up our supplies to support the community. And orientation is incredible and does a drive all summer for us. And that really is the reason that the shelves are stocked. And then to talk about basic needs, just to break down those numbers a little bit. Of course, every basic needs concern at the core is financial need. So some of these concerns are financial and housing. That's why the numbers don't add up to 137. Our food insecurity numbers are lower. That's likely because we have the Unity Shop and we just make those direct referrals rather than students requesting some support from us. The Carolina Cares Fund launched. It's a support fund for students who are experiencing a one-time financial hardship. And we've had 31 requests come through that application since February. Garnet Bites, Dr. Shelley Dempsey right here is a change agent. She made this happen along with our IT folks who helped us create a website where You can go to, if you Google Garnet Bites and you register, you'll get notified of free food. Free food that's available across campus, and anybody, student, faculty, staff, if you have a USC email, I encourage you to sign up. The goal of this is sustainability. So Jesse McNevin is works in sustainability and does a really wonderful job promoting this and helping us in the shop to ensure that we're green certified and that we're recovering as much food as possible. So I encourage you to sign up for Garnet Bites. And then finally, Swipe Out Hunger. Emma was instrumental in helping us transfer that over kind of under this basic needs umbrella. And we were able to give out 16 meal plans. And our hope is to expand that in the future to do some pretty thorough planning in advance with Airmark to grow that swipe collection process. So this is the link to sc.edu basic needs. So it has all the information you would need to find out about any of these resources. I think we're good. Any questions?
Thank you.
Good job, Amy.
Good job.
All right, well, hi everyone, I'm Molly, her. I help oversee our Office of Civil Rights and Title IX. So I think most folks are familiar, but if you're not, we are on a mission to create an environment where all people are treated with dignity and respect and can learn and work where they are not experiencing harassment, discrimination, or sexual misconduct. So I am going to share some of our numbers, but I want to remind you that these are not just numbers, these are people who have experienced this harm. And so I just want to make sure that's really clear before I put up this chart. So with that, we do the numbers of incidents or allegations based on academic year. And so that's June 1st to May 31st, because we use the same database that Conduct uses, and that's how it's run. And so that's where that is. So when I say allegations or incidents, when we have like one experience that, let's say, multiple folks were impacted by, we count that as one allegation or one incident. And so we don't double count that, for example. And so then down here at the bottom, you'll see where it says like case files or individual people. That's why there's going to be more people impacted than there are allegations or incidents. We get way more reports than that. So when there's something that happens on campus that many people learn about, or let's say someone goes and shares their experience with many people who make a report, we are fielding many more reports than what is actually up here. So Title IX allegations or incident is anything that has to do with sex or gender. And so that would be sexual harassment, sexual assault, relationship violence, stalking, or the like. And so you can see that's the majority. You might be wondering, wow, why didn't you fill in the rest of this chart? And it's because I don't have that data. The star up there on the 21-22 academic year is where our office was created towards the end of the year. And so I can't really even speak to the data that we inherited, because some of the work was being done by a prior office, some was being picked up by some folks in student conduct, like Maureen, who was just here, and some other folks who we really appreciate doing that work. So I can't really speak to that, but you can see a lot more folks have come forward, a lot more incidents have been reported, and so it's absolutely growing. We're keeping the records, which is great. And so you can see here that we have other civil rights. So this is all the other protected class, like race, religion, ethnicity. The list goes on, as you know. Race is the most reported of the other protected classes. So I think that's important to know. I know there was a request to talk about drugging, because we've had the overlap there. And sometimes it's hard for us to say like, oh, this is definitely drugging or it's definitely not. And I know we have talked about this, so Ashley, if you wanna, as always, say anything about this, but here's what I will share. There have been some points where we get a little bit more of reports that are very clearly drugging. One, because folks will say, I think I was drugged, or they will describe an incident that is like that. But what I want to make sure that people know is it's typically not a drug that someone can go get tested for. And here's why. One, it leaves your system very quickly. So even if it was a typical drug that could be tested, it's probably going to leave their system before someone decides to go to the hospital. And that's no negative reflection on anyone. It's just they leave your system very quickly. And two, most folks who are drugging people are not using drugs that can be tested for. They're using extra alcohol. They're using like Visine eye drops. They're using cough syrup. They're mixing in things that are not going to show up on a drug screening. So I would love if you or anyone from your team would like to add to that, because I think that's really important that we stop talking about outdated things as it relates to drug facilitated sexual assaults.
I'll just echo that. That is a lot of what we see when we have students disclosing, specifically around being assaulted after experiencing drugging has been a lot of, well, we were out and I was drinking and then I felt XYZ symptoms, but they aren't necessarily sure what that was. And a lot of times, even if they go to try to get a test, it's not going to show up. Or by the time that they have to wait for a nurse, wait for the doctor to check them out, like all that time has passed. Even if there was something in the system, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to show up. And then they often leave feeling like, well, maybe it didn't happen. Maybe this didn't happen to me. So a lot of times that also creates some barriers for them even wanting to talk about it again.
Yeah. And we have had really great partners in making referrals over. We always, in our office, try to remind folks like, hey, if someone says, I think I was drugged, one, let's trust them. And two, we would love for you to get them over so that we can make sure if someone knows what their resources are. So sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna add to what Ashley said, just from the observation side of programming, that this is the first year we've had nightcaps available for free to students. And they're very popular. Like even if someone, it didn't happen to them, they've heard it happen to someone, or they have a panic about it for one reason or another. And I don't know, but I don't remember being panicked about it when I was an undergrad. So that's also kind of a test to like, maybe these aren't all the numbers that are really happening. But we do still have those available. So if y'all know students that want them, let us know.
I will also add to that. Hey, I'm in the other corner. A nightcap is a disposable or usable drink cover. We have scrunchies, stickers, we have PTs. So we have a variety of it. Nightcap is the brand.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you all so much. So as you can see, we have really great partners in Sape. Student conduct will often refer folks over when they're having a discussion with someone. They might realize like, hey, this person actually needs to be talking about something else and refer them over. They're literally walking the floors. We are still birds. So we are there. And then we were able to actually do great education, I believe, with Save It Us and Safe when we did see a very clear uptick in the fall because we watch for trends as we get reports. And so we did see a clear uptick. Like we'll see some here and there, but we saw a flood come together and we were able to go talk to a targeted audience of folks where the reports were stemming from so that we could try to intervene. So I'll share that. We also know that sexual assaults across the United States and other places are very underreported. So these numbers should be higher. And people generally don't like, I'm sure most people in this room are fine with me saying that. But when I say, hey, we actually want these reports to go up because we want people to feel comfortable accessing resources to get what they need. So really these report numbers should be higher, plateau, and then go down. Obviously, I want them to go down, let me be clear. But we want people to feel comfortable to seek the support that they need to get. So I'm happy to answer any questions here. I know we have y'all after me, right? That's- Okay, so I'm happy to answer any questions about these numbers and ultimately people's, but does this make sense?
Is this just student?
Oh, great question. This is students, faculty, and staff. 40% of our cases that come in are student 10-9. So that is the majority of what comes in. And then most faculty staff cases are civil rights. And then I just wanted to quickly share about education. So a big focus for us this year were the in-person educations for faculty and staff. And so we trained 2,300 managers because they really need to make sure folks are coming to them, they know what they're doing. And then we are trying to get all of the new hires. So since January, we've been training all new hires of faculty and staff. And so that is continuing on. And those are all in person. We do have some virtual options for folks that need. And then we have had about 2,000 other students, faculty, and staff. So that's like one-on-one presentations, student boards, teams, departments, things like that. So about 5,000 in person. Then we have the online modules. I saw y'all are doing those numbers on your slide, so I didn't look them up. But then the employee modules went out for anyone who we didn't get an in-person. I didn't look up that number though, so and counting. So great. And then I just wanted to let folks know one quick update. I know Maureen mentioned about elevators and accessibility, but we did 2 days ago get the access for individuals with disabilities policy signed. It's the first ever university-wide policy for accessibility, so that's exciting. And of course, that's not actually a good fact, we're behind. But great, happy we could get that done with our great partners in the Student Disability Resource Center, in HR. Simply, we are moving towards a more accessible campus. There's much to be done, but we must start. And all of this really goes together because when you're thinking about how to treat people with dignity and respect, people start to change behavior. So we are happy to partner with y'all and have people think differently in all parts of what they do. So people are treated well. But does anyone have any questions about anything? Sure. Great, thanks.
All right, thanks y'all. I'm Amy Cardigan with Sape. I'm gonna move pretty quickly through most of our stuff. We had another banner year, so I feel like every year I get up here and say we did more of everything than last year. Surprise, that's what we did again this year. So as of this point, we're at 160 programs and presentations for over 9,600 students, faculty, and staff, which is mostly this person doing all of that.
You all have you been here?
Yeah. Our programs and participant numbers are up. Narcan distribution is about equal to last year. I think we're at just closer to 700 last year. We were at 773 this year. So we feel like that might be kind of where the need is. We're at about 100 a month, basically, through the when classes are in session. We had, despite some changes, I was expecting Screen U to go down and it went up. So for those of you who don't know, that's our anonymous online screening tool for folks to do a little check of their drinking or cannabis use. And we do that in presentations and in programs. We also do it at tables and at different spaces. If you have a waiting room, if you have a group of students who you would like to let them do a little bit of education, we can provide that link for you so that you can provide an opportunity for people to kind of check on themselves a little bit. The other thing Screen U does is allow people to define what problematic use looks like. And so when you answer those questions, you now have a definition of what it means to drink in a way that might be harmful. And so that helps us be able to intervene with other people in our life or recognize a problem among other folks. So Screen U serves double duty. So it's not just for folks we're worried about, it's also for our student leaders and those kind of spaces. I think we're at 93 students have completed STIR and STIR Plus. Several of them are wrapping up in the next week. So that number will go up just a little bit as folks finish up their program. 90% of those are referred to us by the student conduct process. However, we've gotten more self-referrals this year than ever before, which is again a continuing trend of students identifying that something is not going right and coming in and getting help, which is what we like to see. And then we continued our campus support. We did 50 hours of individual recovery coaching over the course of the academic year, trained 104 new faculty and staff, and then many of you participated in our photo day, collegiate recovery day over at Benedict College. So we're excited to be a part of that for the third year and also to not host it this year. So we're able to move it from the State House over to Benedict. So we're hoping, so next year you might have to make a trek to one of the other campuses in the state. We haven't really set up yet. But overall, things are going well and pretty active for folks in the office. Molly mentioned the required community education. There's brief wrap up in case folks don't know what that is. That's the thing that all incoming students have to do. Undergraduate students do alcohol EDU, mental well-being, and a sexual assault course. Graduate students are asked to do mental well-being and the sexual assault prevention course. 8,500 undergraduate students completed the modules as of yesterday. And we responded to 1,397 calls and emails this academic year, mostly Valencia. That, for those of you who might remember, last year we had this humongous 100% doubling increase. So that is about 20% lower than last year, but still double what we did in 22-23. So still working on getting the completion up. And for the data that people care the most about, right? So this question, I love it when our data works, triangulates correctly, right? And so when conduct says, hey, drinking is down, but severity is up, and Dorenzo says, hey, we're not getting as many reports of parties and incidents and complaints from neighbors. And then I look at this data and say, our freshmen are drinking less than ever. So it's nice that those three things all kind of fit together. So again, we've seen since COVID that jump in folks who say in the last 2 weeks, I've not had anything to drink at all. Most of these students answered these questions in October and are first year students. That's predominantly what you're looking at. And we are down, we were years over at 12 and 15% of this problematic, which is 8 or more drinks in one occasion in the last 2 weeks. And now we're closer to 1%. And that is in October, I think I said that. So all good trends. Nobody believes me when I say it, but I promise our students are not drinking in the highest risk ways that they used to. The campus culture has shifted a lot, primarily because of the changes in 5 points. And so these folks are dominating, which is fine. If everybody drank like this, we're good. So we need to work on reinforcing the idea that the Gamecock experience really isn't about this. It is for some folks, and we will help them. And then the question people always ask, where do first year students drink? So our underage freshmen are still drinking in our licensed establishments, primarily in 5 points at the Vista. However, you can see that we're back to kind of pre-COVID numbers when it comes to that. But the slide that matters the most to me, because the reason we spent so much time talking about 5 points is because of what was happening back here in 2016 and 2017, which was we had students, freshman students who were being transported to the hospital from 5 points because they were being overserved. That is not happening. And we've gotten back to the point where our freshmen are still going to 5 points and the Vista, but they are not going to the hospital, right? They are not close to death when they are going out to drink for the night. And I'm being dramatic, but That's truly the change that's happened. And so I think Maureen said we were at 38. Sorry, I didn't look at her slide before but I updated mine, but this is what we want to see. They can drink in establishments. If they don't go to the hospital, that means the bars are doing something better than they were before. Not all bars, but most of them have changed. Okay, that's all I got to say.
Yes, and we are at 5. I do want to be respectful of everyone's time, so feel free to like pack up and go if you need to, and I'll just wrap up this slide really quickly. We do have a sign-in sheet as well, so please make sure that you sign that before you go and grab some fruit, lemonade, and cookies. But I just want to wrap this up just by sharing some updates from the coalition. And just thank everyone who's been involved over the past year. We did create a bystander intervention subcommittee based on the increases in drugging that was coming up last year as a repeated topic. So we brought together folks to kind of go about that in a bystander intervention sense. So we've got folks covering all 5 areas of bystander intervention. We've got Sape, counseling and psychiatry, athletics, civil rights and Title IX, FSL, OMSA, Conduct, and Sape have all come together, shared their expertise in that area, and we've worked on creating a common definition for bystander intervention topics and scenarios to kind of better talk about them and incorporate them into other presentations that we're giving. Some of the other tasks that fall under the coalition, we completed and sent out the biennial review, which really pulled together data covering a whole wide variety of topics that we sent out to students, faculty, and staff. We updated our USC alcohol and drug policies, and I wanted to put on everyone's radar that over the summer there's going to be some alcohol license protests, which like anyone can go and attend that. Social is going to be on June 25th, and Jay's on August 19th to 21st. So if anyone's interested in kind of getting some more information about that, you could reach out to me and I'd be happy to give you all more information, like the address and time and everything for that.
Both of those are
Yes, both of those are in the Vista, which has become the new problem location this year. Did anyone else have any announcements that you'd like to share before we wrap up for the day? Great. Thank you all so much for coming here. This is the best attended coalition meeting that I've hosted since I started. I appreciate that so much. Like, it really just means so much to me that all of y'all care enough to like come out and learn more about everything. I'm just so happy to have all of you involved. Thank you.